Something happened last night that is going to change the Middle East forever. And I am not saying that lightly. Because what took place in the darkness of Monday night, while most of the world was asleep, was not just another airstrike in an ongoing war. It was the targeted elimination of one of the most powerful men in the Islamic Republic of Iran. A man so deeply woven into the fabric of that regime, so central to its survival strategy, that his death does not just remove a single leader from the board, it tears a hole in the entire command structure of a country already fighting for its life. His name was Ali Larijani, and if you do not know that name, you need to learn it right now. Because understanding who this man was is the only way to understand exactly how terrifying what comes next is going to be. Welcome to Rachel Meadow News. Stay with me, because this story is moving fast and the consequences are enormous. Let us start from the beginning. On February 28th of this year, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran. Within hours, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was dead. The man who had ruled Iran with an iron fist for over 3 decades, gone in a single night. The world held its breath. Iran's government went into crisis mode, and out of that chaos, a handful of figures stepped forward to hold the regime together. Ali Larijani was the most important of all of them. Think about what that means. When the supreme leader was killed, Iran did not collapse. It regrouped. And Larijani was the man doing the regrouping. He appeared on state television within 24 hours of Khamenei's death, defiant, composed, furious. He looked directly into the camera and said that America and Israel had set the heart of the Iranian nation ablaze. He promised that Iran would burn their hearts in return. He called the American and Israeli forces hellish international oppressors and vowed that an unforgettable lesson was coming. This was not the reaction of a man running from the fight. This was a man who believed Iran could survive this war and was willing to lead it through. So who exactly was Ali Larijani? Because this man was not some bureaucrat. He was not a puppet or a figurehead. He was the real thing. Born in 1958 in Najaf, Iraq, to one of the most powerful families in the entire history of the Islamic Republic, Larijani came from a dynasty so influential that Time magazine once described them as the Kennedys of Iran. His father was a prominent religious scholar. His brothers held positions at the absolute top of Iranian power, including in the judiciary and the Assembly of Experts, the body responsible for selecting and overseeing the supreme leader. His personal connections went even deeper. At the age of 20, he married the daughter of Morteza Motahari, one of the closest confidants of Ayatollah Khomeini himself, the founding father of the Islamic Republic. Larijani was not just connected to the revolution, he was blood-tied to it. And yet, unlike so many of his peers, Larijani was not just a religious ideologue. He held a bachelor's degree in mathematics and computer science. He earned a master's and then a doctorate in Western philosophy from the University of Tehran, writing his thesis on the 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant. He served as Iran's culture minister. He ran the state broadcasting network. He served as Speaker of the Iranian parliament for nearly a decade. He led Iran's nuclear negotiations with the West for years, sitting across from the most senior diplomats in the world and holding the line for the Islamic Republic. He was the calm, pragmatic face of a regime known for anything but calm and pragmatism. This was not just a military commander. This was the intellectual backbone of the Iranian regime's survival strategy. He was 67 years old. He had just been seen publicly 4 days before his death, walking in Tehran during the annual Quds Day rally, appearing unbothered, showing the world that Iran's leadership was still standing. And then, overnight, he was gone. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed the killing Tuesday morning. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a statement from Jerusalem. He said, and I want you to hear this carefully, that the elimination of Larijani was part of a deliberate effort to give the Iranian people a chance to take their fate into their own hands and overthrow their government from within. Netanyahu said this will not happen all at once, but if they persist, he said, the path becomes possible. That is not just a military statement. That is a regime change declaration. That is Israel and the United States telling the world outright that the goal is not just to degrade Iran's military capacity. The goal is to collapse the Iranian government entirely. Iran confirmed the deaths hours later. The Supreme National Security Council released a statement acknowledging that Larijani was killed alongside his son Morteza, the head of his office, and several members of his security detail. The statement described him as a figure who, until the very last moments of his life, worked for the advancement of Iran and the Islamic Revolution. Iran called it martyrdom. The rest of the world called it assassination. And Larijani was not the only senior Iranian killed that night. Also confirmed dead is Gholam Reza Soleimani, the commander of Iran's Basij forces. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it should. The Basij is the paramilitary force that Iran uses to crush internal dissent. These are the people deployed against protesters in the streets. They are the enforcers of the regime's will at home. Killing their commander is a direct message. It says, "We are not just going after your generals. We are going after the people keeping you in power inside your own country." Now, here is where this gets truly frightening, because Iran's response has already begun, and it is escalating by the hour. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced intense new attacks against Israel in direct retaliation for Larijani's killing. At least 2 people were killed in central Israel from Iranian ballistic missile strikes on Tuesday. The United States responded by dropping 5,000-pound guided bombs on Iranian missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. Iran-aligned militias fired a combination of drones and rockets at the United States Embassy in Baghdad. A warship believed to be carrying United States Marines is currently making its way through the Malacca Strait, heading toward the Middle East. Iran's army commander, Major General Amir Hatami, said the response to Larijani's death will be decisive and regrettable, and stated that the blood of this martyr and others will be avenged. Another senior Iranian military commander said that President Trump must wait for their surprises, and that the armed forces' response will be more devastating than anything the enemy can imagine, and that this path will continue until surrender. Until surrender. Let that sink in. Iran is not talking about a measured, proportional response. Iran is talking about total war until one side surrenders. That is where we are right now. And the situation is made even more dangerous by what is happening with America's allies. Because President Trump went before the cameras this week and asked NATO to help keep the Strait of Hormuz open. The Strait of Hormuz is the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Iran has been attacking shipping in that strait since the war began. The global energy market is already in crisis, and Trump asked America's partners in the most powerful military alliance in human history to step up and help. They said no. France said it will not take part in operations to open the Strait of Hormuz in the current context. The United Kingdom said no. Germany said no. Spain said no. Italy said no. And President Trump exploded. He called NATO's refusal a very foolish mistake. He said he was deeply disappointed in the alliance. He questioned out loud whether NATO would ever support the United States when it actually needed them. Meanwhile, America's own National Counterterrorism Director resigned in protest over this war, saying Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States and that this conflict was not justified. Trump called him weak on security. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard rushed to defend the president, saying that Trump, as commander-in-chief, is solely responsible for determining what constitutes an imminent threat. But the internal fractures are visible. America is fighting this war increasingly alone. NATO is fracturing in real time, and Iran knows it. Now let us talk about what comes next, because this is the question that should be keeping everyone up at night. With Larijani gone, who runs Iran's security strategy? The new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the man America and Israel killed on day one of this war, has made no public appearances since taking power. He is in hiding or in a secure location, and nobody outside a very tight inner circle knows where he is or what decisions he is making. Iran Iran is now being run by a leadership structure that is fractured, grieving, enraged, and under direct physical threat every single day. That is exactly the kind of situation where catastrophic decisions get made. When a government is cornered, when its top leaders are being killed one by one, when the streets are shaking with bombs and the lights are going out across Tehran, the calculations change. The threshold for escalation drops, desperation sets in, and a desperate nuclear-armed state, because let us not forget, Iran is believed to be extremely close to nuclear weapons capability. A desperate state with nothing left to lose is the single most dangerous actor on the planet. Iran has already struck the United Arab Emirates, targeting energy infrastructure in one of the wealthiest and most strategically vital nations in the Gulf. Diesel prices in the United States have already surged past $5 a gallon for the first time in years. Global shipping is in chaos, and we are only 18 days into this war. Think about what day 30 looks like. Think about what day 60 looks like if this does not stop. The world was already holding its breath after Khamenei was killed on day 1. The world held its breath again when American soldiers started coming home in body bags. 13 United States service members killed so far, nearly 200 wounded. The world is still holding its breath. And now, Larijani, the man who was the steady hand guiding Iran through this crisis, the man who led their nuclear negotiations, the man who kept the regime from completely unraveling after losing its supreme leader, that man is dead. His son is dead. His security team is dead. And Iran has vowed that what comes next will be worse than anything anyone has seen yet. This is not a regional conflict anymore. This is a war that is reshaping the entire global order in real time. Every day brings a new assassination, a new strike, a new escalation, a new resignation, a new country refusing to help, a new set of bodies on the ground. The Strait of Hormuz is being contested. The price of fuel is spiking across the world. America's alliances are cracking. Iran's government is bleeding out but still swinging. And nobody in any capital city on earth has a clear answer to the question that matters most right now. How does this end? That is the question. And right now, tonight, nobody has the answer. What we know is this. When you systematically eliminate every major leader of a government one by one, you do not necessarily end the war. Sometimes you make it worse. Sometimes you create a vacuum that gets filled by someone far more radical, far less predictable, and far more willing to burn everything down to make a point. Iran has been here before. In 1980, the world thought the chaotic new revolutionary government would collapse within months. It lasted 45 years. It survived a brutal 8-year war with Iraq. It survived sanctions, assassinations, protests, and isolation. The Iranian regime has shown over and over again that it knows how to survive. The question now is whether survival instinct turns into something that pulls the entire region and possibly the entire world into a conflict that none of us are ready for. Stay close to this channel because this story is not slowing down. It is accelerating, and you need to understand exactly what is happening before the next breaking news hits your screen. This has been Raquel Meadow News. Share this with someone who needs to see it, and stay informed.